The Marty and Laura Show is brought to you by Veterinary Village. With locations throughout Wisconsin, Veterinary Village is dedicated to enhancing the quality of animal and human lives today and into the future. Welcome to the Marty and Laura Show. I'm Laura.
And I'm Marty.
Excellent. We're so excited to be joining you. We have some really cool stuff for you guys. We're going to start today with just a little bit of an introduction about who we are and what we're going to be doing with this show. And we're thrilled that you're here to join us. And so I'm going to start with a few questions for Marty.
Oh.
Right? So, Marty, you are both a veterinarian and an attorney. So, tell us about that.
Well, let's just not limit it to that. I'm a lot of things.
You are
I'm
a
a
lot of
mom.
things.
I'm a wife.
Yes.
I'm a practice owner. I have 4 practices. I have 2 kids, 2 grandkids. I have a staff of upwards of 50. Um, I I like to cook. I mean, there's a lot of things that I am. So I don't want to just sound like I'm this really boring, like that's all I do. I'm a veterinarian and an attorney. And there's only a handful of us in the country that have both degrees. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not the only one by any stretch of the imagination, nor was I the first. There were some people very important people that preceded me that gave me some inspiration to go to law school. But I went to vet school as a baby. I graduated from 3 years of undergrad, went straight into vet school. So by the time I graduated from veterinary school, I was 24. Like I was a baby
You were a
veterinarian when I
baby.
graduated. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like
And
Sheldon,
and
right? You went to college at 12.
well, no. But I was pretty young when I graduated, and I graduated back when women were not the norm in veterinary medicine. There were only a small number of us in our class. And by the time we graduated, that number had really inverted back to where it is now, so that there were more women than men, but still not the magnitude of what we had. So when I graduated, I worked at an emergency clinic my first year out of school, and I didn't get very many people saying to me, "Are you sure you're a veterinarian? You're a girl." I had more people saying to me, "Are you sure you're a veterinarian? You're too young." And I'm like, No, really, honest, I'm not. But that was 43 years ago. So yeah, there's a lot of veterinary medicine under my belt. Um, 15 years ago, I decided to go to law school because I've had a lot of people say, well, what did you do them both at the same time? Which one did you do first? I was well into my veterinary career when I decided that I needed another degree. And I looked really hard at becoming board certified in theriogenology, but elected to do something that expanded rather than contracted my opportunities. So I have a sister and a brother-in-law that are attorneys. My grandfather was an attorney. And so I just decided, oh, let's
What
go
the
for it.
heck? Let's
I
just
had
add
nothing
a
better to
law
do.
degree to all of this.
Yeah,
I
we got
love
nothing
it.
else to do.
I love
Right.
it.
Well, I knew I wasn't going to retire well, and I figured at that point I was still young enough to go back to school. I was only 50, and I didn't think that I would give up crawling around behind dogs very easily, so I wanted to do something else that gave me more opportunities, and indeed it has. I don't practice law anymore. I did for a short time on a small scale, but I still have a lot of involvement in the legal aspects of veterinary medicine without really practicing.
I love that. And so, one of the other things that we talked about earlier, you mentioned you're a wife and a mom and a grandma, and you have a wonderful assortment of fabulous dogs.
I do. I'm a breeder and I've shown dogs for many years. When I was a little kid, we did not have dogs because my dad and my sister were allergic. But our next door neighbors, when we lived in Arizona, had corgis.
Mhm.
And I pretty instantly fell in love with them, as did my dad. So I grew up with those in the backyard for a couple of years. And when I went to veterinary school, I had always said, when I graduate, I will get a corgi and I would like to have a litter, a litter. Well, I had 2 kids by the time we got our first corgi, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, which almost nixed the whole deal because
Yeah, right.
2-year-olds and corgis and a breeder's house that's the size of, you know, most people's living room. Her whole house was the size of it. It was very tiny. And so taking a 2-year-old into the house in January in Wisconsin was a little tough. Somehow we got a corgi anyway, and I went really with the intention of just getting a corgi that I could have a litter from. And by the time I left her house that day, and by the way, I got elevated up the list because I was already working with breeders, and one of my breeder clients said, "Oh, you want corgis? I know just the person to contact. She is like the mother of all corgis in the United States." So she put me in touch with her. I got pushed to the front of the list, and by the time I left that day, I had signed a contract with her that not only would I have a corgi, but I would have a corgi that I would show and finish and breed, and she would get 2 puppies back out of the first litter. And so it began. And she, at that point, when I took a group 4 and a group 1 with that dog at our local shows, she looked at me into this corgi journey and said, "Well, this is probably the best dog you'll ever have."
Oh, God.
And of course, that was drawing a line in the sand and saying, "Wait a minute, we can do more."
So what we've met about Marty is that you don't throw down the gauntlet. Already, we know this like
Exactly.
5 minutes in, right?
Exactly. Because you draw a line in the sand, honey, and I'm jumping over it. So we ended up with a national champion.
Mhm.
One of our dogs that we bred did not show her, but bred her, won our national in 2016. And then about 11 years ago, I also got Danish Swedish farm dogs, which in the very near future will be entering AKC. We're through FSS, through miscellaneous. As of January 2025, we will be entering into the real dog show world in the working dog group. So I've got
And
2
they
lines of
the
dogs.
tiniest of the working dogs, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll be the first table dog, probably not the only, but the first table dog in the working dog group. And they really are used as working dogs in Sweden and Denmark. So when people question it, because a lot of people think that they resemble terriers, but they are not terriers. If you want to start a fist fight with a person with a Danish Swedish farm dog, that's your fast track in getting them riled up, is to say, "Oh, it looks just like a terrier." And they don't, and they're not, and they don't have the temperament of a terrier. So anyway, I have 2 lines of dogs that we're breeding. I have the first Danish Swedish farm dog in the country that has a certificate of merit. And hopefully I will also have one of the first that has a championship. We've had about a dozen litters of those and have very strategically and very carefully placed them into people's homes that were willing to exhibit, breed, and carry on the tradition of the Danish Swedish farm dog. So I'm really excited about that too,
And
because
they're
it
kind
puts
of
us
a
in a
rare
really cool
breed,
place.
right? I mean, there's not
Yeah.
very many of them in the world. So you are
Yeah.
literally saving a breed.
It's pretty fun. And they're such great dogs. So if you don't know what a Danish Swedish farm dog is, A, don't call it a terrier, and B, Google it, because there's some really cool stuff. And they do every kind of sporting event you could possibly imagine. So it doesn't matter what you want to do with your dogs, whether it's dock diving or fly ball or, fast cat or tracking or you name it,
And
they do it.
yeah, love it. And I think notably, you were the 2023 Westminster Kennel Club Veterinarian of the Year. I mean,
Yeah, that's pretty great. And
that.
it was selected by our clients. And I'm just gonna say one more
Just
thing to
voted
kind of
on by
sound
the
like I'm
country.
w well, like, I'm kind of I don't wanna sound like I'm but I'm gonna overstep just one more thing. In 2020, I was the John Steiner Theriogenology Practitioner of the Year. So that's selected by my peers in the theriogenology group, the repro veterinarians group. So that's selected by other veterinarians. And it had to be a unanimous vote. I didn't even know that I had gotten it because it was during COVID and they announced it when I wasn't on the online program so I started getting emails from people saying, "Congratulations." I'm like, "For what?" I didn't even know I was nominated. So I
Oh,
got that award. And then, yes, then in 2023, my clients and other people in the country that know me from your show and from Revival and from lots of other places, I was one of the 4 final nominees and then made the final cut and became Westminster Veterinarian of the Year in 2023. So I've had good a really good run and a really good life. It's been awesome.
I love it. I love it. And you also happen to be a super cool human being. I'm just going to
Oh,
testify to that.
thank you.
We might actually somewhere along the way during this show drop little bits and tidbits about our trip to Scotland and the Crofts
Yeah.
Dog Show in England. So, you know, stories about maxed out taxi cabs and Marty's luggage going down the escalator behind her.
Yeah, and a quick trip in an Uber in at the dark
Oh,
of
yeah,
night
to
to
get
go buy a
scotch in
special bottle
Scotland.
of something. Yes. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so
Okay, I'm just saying, you
I
guys.
have
Yeah, we have a good
I
time.
have lots of stories.
We're gonna have a really good time. And I think it's really, before Marty gets to ask me questions, I just want to talk a little bit about what we want to do here at the Marty and Laura Show. We want to talk to you guys about just really, really straightforward questions that, instead of going to Dr. Google, we're going to have you
Oh
come
yeah.
to Dr. Marty, because there's so much not great information out there, and keyboard warriors and Dr. Google and all the things. And we wanted to make sure that you could get great information from the actual source, from the actual horse's mouth, as it were.
Well, and there's so many nuances to veterinary medicine. It's like human medicine. When you Google something, it's not always accurate, the information that you get. And so you do have to be selective about where you go for that information. If you're looking for something of your own health and you go to Cleveland Clinic or Mayo Clinic or Marshfield Clinic, you're picking places that have reliably good information, and we have equally good veterinary sources. But Facebook is not one of them. And a lot of others are not the same. I see lots of things that get posted, and like I can't even look at some of the groups on a regular basis because it makes my head hurt. So it's really important that if you are selecting information, that you look at veterinary websites that are appropriate, that you speak to your veterinary professionals, and really honestly, your veterinary professional, your local veterinarian and their staff, they're amazing resources for you if you interact with them appropriately, take good care of them, you're loyal to them, you don't bounce around, you don't give them a hard time about the hours that they keep or the prices that they charge. Be kind from the very start at the reception desk all the way back to the doctor. Don't be the person that calls and says, "No, I'm only going to talk to her." No, 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 that doesn't help me. I don't know how urgent your problem is. I don't know how to address it. I can't help you. So be kind to everyone at your veterinary hospital because they are your lifeline and they genuinely are there to help you and want to help you. If you're that person that walks in the door a couple times a year with a plate of cookies or a couple of boxes of pizza, and you're not that person that's always complaining, being difficult. I mean, really, truly, it's a huge thing for your veterinarian to know that you respect their staff.
Absolutely, 100%.
Doggett simplifies the puppy buying journey by connecting families with the perfect breed and responsible, health verified breeders. They are the only breeder marketplace that verifies health clearances and responsible breeding practices. Through their personalized puppy matcher tool and matchmaker services, they educate and guide buyers every step of the way, ensuring a seamless process and a perfect match for their lifestyle. From initial breed consultation to introductions with top breeders, Doggett makes responsible puppy ownership easy and stress-free.
Okay, Marty. So, what is it that you always wanted to know about me that you didn't
Well,
find out in Scotland?
yeah, there's a lot of things shared in Scotland. Hotel rooms, bathrooms, you name it, we shared it. So it's kind of interesting to me that you have so many breeds that some seem similar and some do not, and kind of I know how you started with your mom, but how did you get into these other breeds, kind of get lost along the way?
I never got lost. I never got lost. So I started. My mom enrolled me in dog care 4-H when I was in fourth grade because I was shy and retiring and lacked people skills. Right?
Wow.
I mean, it's
Well,
totally
two
true.
for three.
True story. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and who needs people skills anyway? Just saying, y'all. Uh, And I frequently say that the dog care 4-H program saved my life. My best friend to that point was the school librarian, and I would spend the entire
Oh,
recess shelving books, and I was the only third grader in the world that knew the Dewey Decimal System by heart.
that's a little geeky.
So geeky, and I haven't lost all of the geeky.
But that's okay. Books are amazing.
As you can see
Um,
from my bookshelf
yeah.
behind me, I still
Oh
have
gosh.
that passion.
Yeah, and I suffer from the same disease of not ever having enough books.
Yes. Well, and you're the author of the book. I forgot to mention earlier, multiple books, but also Your Pandemic Puppy.
Yeah, those two, that Canine reproduction book and Your Pandemic Puppy. And there's two more underway. So because I needed something else to do.
Because you don't sleep well. Yeah.
Actually, last night I did not because I have a new baby and she's really struggling. So, no, I was up more than I was down during the night last night. So, yes, I'm that person.
True. Well, and it's part of why we're friends because I too am that person. I finally my dad got sick of hauling hay and building fence for our horses, and he said, you know, I'll buy you any purebred dog you want. Just get rid of these freaking horses. That wasn't the word he used, but we're on
No,
a child approved
tame it down.
podcast.
Yep, tame it down.
So yeah. So I got an English setter, and then we had
Oh, I
many.
didn't know you started with an English setter. Oh, I thought you started with spaniels.
No, my mom, at the same time, my mom discovered Clumber Spaniels, which are named for Clumber Park in Sherwood Forest, where Robin Hood was just a boy. And over the course of time, my dad had field trial labs. And I decided along the way that English setters were very pretty and very elegant. And they weren't the bookworms of the dog world.
Mm.
And then I discovered German Wirehair pointers, and they were really smart, and they were really kind of scrappy, tough, and they 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 were a lot more like I am than the English setters. And so Reeves Bird Dogs was born, and that was in 1980. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did that with my family for a lot of years. Went to college, got a degree, worked as a newspaper reporter, and
Let's
um,
be specific, a degree in journalism,
well, actually, a degree in communications. So
communications.
I went to a wonderful private liberal arts college called Westminster College in Salt Lake City, Utah. Shout out Parsons. And I had a wonderful education, and it was a very broad, if not a very deep education. Let's say that. So, my degree includes journalism, marketing, advertising, public relations, and a minor in history and political science. So, uh,
Wow.
yeah. So
That's all served you really well, though. Look at what you've done with that. That's amazing.
So I worked as a newspaper reporter for weekly and daily papers. I eventually wound up working as a marketing rep at a credit union, which I loathed. And so I have been self-employed since a long time now. And so
Mhm.
I worked for a company that developed self-guided audio driving tours of national parks and national forests.
Oh,
Uh,
that's cool.
there's an entire shelf here of the Lewis and Clark Trail because we did a series of self-guided audio driving tours for the Lewis and Clark Trail all the way from St. Louis to Astoria. And
Wow.
process of doing that when 9/11 happened. And since a lot of our funding was from the Corps of Engineers, that went away.
Yep.
So I
Pretty
had
fast. I bet it did.
Yep, I had all the research, I had done scripting, I had done script outlines, we had produced a couple of them, and then the funding just dried up. So it never was finalized. But
Right.
all of this kind of came together. I spent 25 years showing dogs for a living. So dog shows were my life. I literally trained, groomed, and showed. I honestly can't count hundreds to thousands of dogs over the course of 25 years. Top
Sure.
winning, regular old, just, but that was part of being a professional dog handler, is doing the training, doing the grooming, doing the socialization, traveling
Hmm.
thousands and thousands and thousands of miles in every kind of
Oh,
dog.
yeah.
And so when I was ready to retire from all of that, the opportunity to do a podcast sort of landed in my lap. And I talk about it as serendipity, right? So
Mhm.
journalism and recording, audio work, and dogs and all of that knowledge, and you turn it into pure dog talk.
Cool. Yeah. And it's working.
It's
It's
worked.
working.
It's a very, very, very popular show, and that, of course, is how Marty and I met. And we have developed a tremendous friendship and a great working relationship. And we decided to spin that off and talk about a little more sort of general dog and cat and pet topics that we think might be useful and helpful to a broader audience than who we've been talking to up till now.
Right. But it kind of came to a head when we were in the ladies' room at an event, and we were talking to one another, and a woman came busting out of the stall and stopped dead in her tracks in front of us and said, "I recognize your voices. I know who you are." And
You're
that's
Marty
when
and
we
Laura.
realized, oh my gosh, we're Marty and Laura. We've actually had some kind of an impact on people, that, like, to the point that they know who we are without
In
knowing
the
who we are.
bathroom.
So so as strange as I was talking to my husband earlier this week. We were at a Packer game, and I said, "Most really important business happens in the ladies' room, Dan.
It's true.
You just don't really understand that."
No.
But I think it happens in the men's room too. It's just a somewhat different experience,
Yeah.
but one that I don't need to share.
Mhm.
But nevertheless, I think it's kind of helpful for people to know that we want to reach a broader audience, and we want to help people with more general information. So this is your opportunity, if you've been listening to us as for the breeding aspects and some of those more specialized kinds of things, to now expand this into the people who you socialize with, your families, your friends, the people who've bought dogs from you, a broader audience, because
Yeah.
we want to be able to bring the same kind of help to them that we have to this smaller audience. And it's very exciting for us to know that we regularly hear from people that say, "Your show saved my dog's life, or got me to the vet in time, or
Yeah.
helped me understand what was going on." I mean, there's just a lot of aspects of it. So this is an opportunity for you to start sharing this with your friends, because 58% of the population owns a dog. So, I'm assuming that the people you hang out with are probably more dog-like than not dog-like. So you probably have more like 75 or 90% of the people you hang out with are dog people, maybe cat people too.
Or
There's a lot
cat.
of overlap.
Mhm.
Yep, don't want to forget the cats. So it's a good opportunity for you to just share this information, because we're going to cover some really cool stuff
Yep.
in a way that I don't think is readily accessible in other formats.
No, I agree. And that's our goal. We really want to make this something that everybody can access, that is 100%, like I said, where you are, whether you're walking your dog or driving to work or on the treadmill. We're going to come hang out with you, and we're going to give you some really some stories. I mean, Marty has some amazing stories that have never even reached Pure Dog Talk, and some good information and some bright ideas. So
I
we're
hope so.
pretty excited about it.
My goal for Laura is, because we do this now with a video, is we used to do it just on audio, and then we started doing video with it as well. And my goal is to, at least once during every recorded session, to have her jaw drop, her hair catch on fire, and say, "What? Like,
What?
really?" So
The seeds under the Antarctic. I still can't even get my head around.
hey, it's the Arctic, but I didn't make that up. It's in Norway. what's really interesting is that it's actually owned by the country of Norway. So
What?
we can get, yeah, that seed bank belongs to Norway. So God help the rest of the world if you make Norway unhappy with you. Um,
You won't get
so
any.
just a brief aside. Yeah, it's just a brief aside. It has to do with the Semen Preservation Bank that AKC does. But Norway has a seed bank with over 1 million seed samples in it that will be the reserve for our food supply should something catastrophic happen in the world to our food supply, whether it's a drought or whether it's a blight or whether it's a war or whatever it happens to be. Norway owns the seeds. So y'all better be nice to the Norwegians because they hold your future in their hands.
I love that. I still love that. And y'all, I, you know, just in case you didn't know that you needed to know that, you needed to know that.
Well, you never know when those things are going to come up handy in a conversation when there's nothing else to talk about. We don't have those cocktail parties like, our parents grew up having, where you had to be polite and all those things. But still, it's kind of fun to be able to, because Google, you can find anything you want to Google. So if you don't believe me, Google it.
Google it. All right.
But if you're interested in just blowing people's minds, we are going to at least once a show drop something on you. I hope that's my
Yep.
goal, that you don't know, haven't heard, weren't aware of, or can use in some novel way because we were here to help you be a better dog owner.
And you know what? If we can brighten your day in the process, I think that's not a bad
Yeah.
idea.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
I'm good
We
with that.
want this to be fun. We want this to be interactive. We want this to be enjoyable, not just another boring podcast about how vaccines work or
Ooh,
how heartworm preventive is important because heartworm is a bad disease. You already know that stuff. Let's
right.
make it more interesting and more fun.
All right, let's do it. Thank you for joining us on the Marty and Laura Show. We're excited to bring you these unique, fun, fact-based conversations about pet health. We hope you'll join us on social. Stop by the website to sign up for an extra tip of the week for your pet. While you're at it, do us a favor, please, and leave a review wherever you find your podcasts. The Marty and Laura Show is produced by Pure Dog Talk, Inc., sound design and editing by Premium Audio Services.